This is not just a war. This is not just politics. This is a story that...
The story of Palestine is not a tale of today or yesterday. It is a land where history itself breathed through dust and stone.
This land has seen prophets and kings, empires rise and fall, each believing destiny stood on their side.
The soil of Palestine is layered with blood and prayers, sacrifice and longing, written by generations.
This is not just a conflict of land, but a mirror of human faith, fear, pride, and hope.
Every generation has added its chapter, leaving behind questions that still remain unanswered.
For a people crushed by slavery, this command was a promise of dignity, hope, and rebirth. More than 3,000 years ago, God commanded Moses to free the children of Israel from the chains of Pharaoh.
Pharaoh, intoxicated by power, refused to surrender his dominance. Then came the moment when the sea split apart, and oppression met divine will.
Freedom was granted, but the journey ahead would test faith, courage, and obedience. Moses led his people to the edge of the promised land and commanded them to enter and fight. But fear entered their hearts, freezing them at the very edge of destiny.
You and your Lord go and fight! We will remain here!
This moment revealed a painful truth. Fear can overpower faith, even in the presence of divine guidance.
As a consequence, they were condemned to wander the desert for 40 years, time given for reflection, not destruction.
For 40 years, the people wandered through the wilderness, carrying the weight of a missed destiny.
This exile was not destruction, but time. Time meant to reshape belief, discipline, and identity.
Ancient records describe this land as a promised inheritance, tied to lineage and legacy. From Abraham came 2 sons, and from them 2 peoples, each bound to the same land.
This shared claim would become the foundation of a conflict that history would never resolve easily. With new leadership came unity, direction, and resolve.
After decades of wandering, a new chapter was about to begin.
A river marked the boundary between wandering and destiny.
What followed would demand patience, unity, and unwavering resolve.
What followed would test not strength alone, but patience, belief, and unity.
Under new leadership, the campaign across the land began, slow and deliberate. One by one, strongholds fell, and control of the land slowly shifted.
These victories were not easy. Every gain carried sacrifice and struggle.
But with success came pride, and unity slowly began to weaken. In time, the land they had gained began to slip from their hands.
For generations, control over the land was lost, and hope slowly faded into memory.
For nearly 300 years, the land remained out of reach, while expectation endured. Then emerged a new leader, David, whose resolve restored direction and unity.
Under his leadership, Jerusalem was taken and chosen as the heart of the kingdom.
Jerusalem became the capital, a center of power, identity, and ambition.
David envisioned Jerusalem not only as a seat of power, but as a center of order and unity. After David, his son Solomon inherited the kingdom and brought stability through wisdom.
Solomon's rule became known for justice, diplomacy, and reason, rather than conquest.
Monumental structures rose in Jerusalem, symbols of authority and permanence.
This period marked a golden age, defined by stability, prosperity, and influence.
At its peak, the kingdom stood strong, wealthy, respected, and secure.
As influence expanded, foreign customs and ideas quietly entered the heart of power.
Prosperity slowly gave way to division, and unity weakened from within.
After Solomon, the kingdom fractured, splitting authority and loyalty.
The Golden Age faded, leaving behind a weakened realm, vulnerable to what lay ahead.
As the kingdoms weakened, a new power rose in the east, Babylon.
Babylon's advance moved steadily toward Jerusalem, unchecked and relentless. Jerusalem fell. Its defenses were broken, and its authority collapsed.
Once a beacon of light, now reduced to dust. The great temple has fallen, and
With the city in ruins, exile began, marking one of the darkest chapters in the land's history.
For decades, the land remained behind, while exile defined an entire generation.
Years turned into decades, and memory became the only connection to home.
Then the balance of power shifted, as Persia rose and Babylon fell. The new rulers allowed the exiles to return, opening the path back to their homeland. The return marked a fragile restoration. Progress slow, stability uncertain.
For centuries, control endured, uneasy, interrupted, but persistent. But powerful empires rose nearby, and pressure on the land slowly intensified.
Eventually, the shadow of Rome stretched across the land.
What followed would reshape the land and scatter its people once more.
Rome tightened its grip, bringing the land under direct imperial control. Heavy rule and rising pressure turned daily life into quiet resistance.
Eventually, rebellion erupted, driven by desperation and defiance.
Rome responded with force, destroying Jerusalem and erasing its center.
With the city lost, the people were scattered, beginning a long era of dispersion. For centuries, the land stood silent, its former people barred from return.
600 years passed under Roman rule, marked by restriction and control.
Far to the south, a new faith emerged, reshaping the balance of power across the region.
Within decades, the new power defeated empires that had ruled for centuries.
Once more, Jerusalem stood at the edge of a historic turning point.
The approaching force did not seek destruction, but surrender without bloodshed.
Jerusalem was surrendered peacefully, without the devastation of war.
Religious communities were granted protection and freedom to worship.
Religious communities were granted protection and freedom to worship.
For centuries, Jerusalem became a city of coexistence rather than conflict.
From distant lands in the west, a new storm began to form. Armies were raised in the name of faith, marching toward Jerusalem.
The city fell once more, overtaken by invading forces.
Sacred places were violated, and mercy vanished from the city.
After years of division, the Muslim world began to unite once more. From this unity emerged Salahuddin, a leader shaped by discipline and restraint.
Jerusalem was reclaimed, not through chaos, but through decisive order. Where cruelty had once ruled, mercy now defined victory.
For centuries after, Jerusalem remained under Muslim rule, marked by relative stability.
The Ottoman Empire governed the land for hundreds of years, preserving order across regions.
Then came a global war that reshaped empires and redrew borders.
The Ottoman Empire collapsed, ending centuries of centralized authority.
In the vacuum left behind, new powers stepped in, shaping the modern fate of the land.
Political promises were made, shaping the future without the consent of those who lived there.
Over time, the balance of land and population began to change.
Over time, control of territory shifted, reshaping the land itself.
War followed, and hundreds of thousands were forced from the land they had called home. A plan was drawn to divide the land, cutting through history itself.
Gaza became sealed, its land, sea, and air restricted, turning a strip of coast into confinement. Wars and blockades shattered infrastructure, homes, hospitals, and lifelines reduced to rubble.
After 3,000 years, the story remains unfinished, defined by loss, endurance, and the search for justice.